Hello friends, welcome to QApedia and this is our blog qapedia.com. In this session today, we are going to discuss about Selenium with JavaScript Relative XPath Part 1. Uh, so the topics that we are going to discuss today are type of basic relative XPaths, syntax of relative XPath, then relative XPath with single attribute, then relative XPath with multiple attributes, then relative XPath with OR keyword, then relative XPath with AND keyword, then relative XPath with contains method, and then relative XPath with starts with method. So all these topics we will discuss today, and at the at the end, summary of the session. So let's start our session. So we are going to discuss about types of dynamic XPath or types of relative XPath in this session. And in the last session we had discussed what is XPath and type of XPath, and we found that there we have two types of XPaths. One is absolute XPath and the second one is relative XPath. And we found that we never use absolute XPath, we always use relative XPath. So let's discuss about types of relative XPath in this session. We are going to discuss how many types of dynamic or relative XPaths do we have. So there are two types of relative XPath: basic relative XPaths and advanced relative XPaths. We are going to discuss about basic relative XPaths in this particular session. So there are 6 types of basic relative XPath, and those are relative XPath with single attribute, relative XPath with multiple attribute, relative XPath with OR keyword, relative XPath with AND keyword, relative XPath with contains keyword, and relative XPath with starts with keyword. Then let's see the syntax of relative XPath. We have already discussed about the syntax of relative XPath in our last session, but let's see it again. Relative XPath starts with a double slash. Okay, so we have written here double slash. We have to mention the tag name after double slash in relative XPath, or we can mention star after double slash in the relative XPath. So that means there are going to be two types of syntax for a relative XPath. So after this double slash we have mentioned tag name and we have mentioned here star. Okay, then we have to mention square brackets after tag name or star. So we have mentioned here tag name or star after the double slash, and then we have to write attribute name and attribute value inside the square bracket. So this is our square bracket, and inside this we have to write attribute name and attribute value here. Attribute name should always be written with @ symbol before it. So attribute name will always be written with attribute symbol before it. And we have already discussed what is attribute name, what is attribute value in our previous sessions. So this is how our syntax of a relative XPath is going to be: double slash tag name square bracket @ attribute name equals to attribute value, and then double slash star and then same thing. Okay, now the first type of relative XPath is relative XPath with single attribute. So let's start with our first one, which is relative XPath with single attribute, and let's see the syntax of relative XPath with single attribute. Now there are two types of syntax for this, we have already seen, and here also it's going to be the same thing, because this particular syntax is the most basic one, and it is a syntax of this single attribute as well. Okay, we have already seen this particular syntax. Now let's find out the XPath with single attribute. Now how can we find out XPath for any element? And we have seen that we have to go to that particular website, and then we have to right click and inspect on that particular element. So let's go to our demo e-commerce website, and in this we are on the checkout page, and this is our field, input field, first name, and we'll do one thing, we will inspect, right click and then inspect here. So we can see here this is our particular this particular DOM has been highlighted. So right here control plus F, not here, right here control plus F, And what we can do, we can somewhat zoom in this thing. And then we can inspect it. Uh, so here we can see the tag name is input. So what will we do? We will uh, open a notepad. Let's open a new note, no, new tab, and here we'll write double slash and then tag name, which is input, then square bracket, and we'll write here at the rate. Now there are many attributes: type equals to text, class equals to input text, name equals to billing underscore first name, id equals to billing underscore first name. We can take any type of attribute, but we should think that any attribute that we are taking, that value should be unique. Okay, because if the value is not unique, the XPath will not be unique, and that XPath will locate multiple elements. So what will we do? This name is equals to billing first name and id equals to billing first name are the unique values. So we will take that. Now control C, and we'll go to this notepad, and we'll write here id is equals to billing underscore first name and square bracket closed. Now just copy copy this and write it here, paste it here, and it is locating our element, and we can see here it is showing 1 of 1. Okay, so it is finding our unique XPath. Okay, now we have mentioned here tag name as input. If we want, we can remove it and we can mention here star, and then also we are able to find we are able to locate this particular element. So that's what is written there. uh, double slash star at the rate id equals to billing underscore first name, and at the rate input equals to at the rate id double slash input square bracket at the rate id equals to billing first name. So this way we have found the relative XPath with single attribute. Now let's go to relative XPath with multiple attributes. So if you want to find relative XPath with multiple attributes, then the syntax of relative XPath with multiple attributes will be like something like this: double slash tag name, then at the rate attribute 1 underscore name equals to at the rate attribute 1 equals to underscore value, and at the rate attribute 2 underscore name equals to attribute 2 underscore value. This is going to be the syntax, and the same syntax will be here. Only thing will be there, tag name will be replaced by star. So it is like same like previous one. The single attribute and multiple attribute both are looking same. The only thing different thing is that an extra attribute has been added here or used here to find out the element. This type of XPath is generally used when a single attribute is not sufficient to find the unique XPath. So let's see the example for that. Okay, let's go here and again inspect the same field, and here we are seeing multiple attributes, right? So if suppose here I will remove this particular billing first. Let's leave it here. Uh, double slash input and then square bracket and then at the rate, we'll write here type is also an attribute, so we'll use type attribute here. At the rate type is equals to text. Okay, and then what will we do? We will just copy this and we will paste it here. So it it is locating a lots of elements. Okay, it is locating 20 elements, but we want a unique element, right? We want our unique we want it to be we want it to focus on unique element. We want it to focus on this particular input element first name field. Then what will we do? We will do one thing. We will use one more attribute. Okay, and what could be that attribute? So let's use this particular attribute, name or id. So id is equals to billing underscore first name, so we will use that particular attribute here, and we will copy and we'll paste it here, and now it is focusing on one of one. It is finding the unique XPath now. And if suppose you will remove input, you will just place star here. In that case also it is able to find a unique element, unique XPath. Now let's go to relative XPath with OR keyword. So if suppose we want to see a relative XPath with OR keyword, then whenever we are trying to find a relative XPath with OR keyword, then a syntax would be like something like this: double slash tag name square bracket at the rate attribute one underscore name equals to at the rate one attribute one underscore value, then OR keyword, then again at the rate attribute two underscore name equals to attribute two underscore value, and the same thing repeats here. Okay, and tag name would be replaced by star. Now what is example of relative XPath with OR keyword? So this type of XPath is generally used when an element is having different properties at different times. So let's take an example of an e-commerce website which is available in two languages, English and French. So when we have selected the language as English on the website, then the login button has an attribute value of ID. ID is the attribute, and the value of that attribute is login underscore button. But when we have selected the language as French on the website, then what is happening? The login button's attribute value of ID is changing to something like this: button D connection. And what is happening in this case, if suppose we will change our language, then we will have to write two types of XPath, one for English language and one for French language. So what if we don't have to write two XPath and we can write only one XPath, and it will solve our problem, and we will be able to locate our element whichever language we are working with. And what should we do to locate this particular element? We should use OR keyword. Okay, so we have already seen the syntax. Now let's see the example for that. So example would be something like this: double slash button, then square bracket at the rate ID equals to login button. This in case of English language, or at the rate ID, same attribute but different value in case of French. So it is going to locate our element in any case, in both the cases. Okay, then relative XPath with end keyword. So let's see the relative XPath with end keyword, and what would be the syntax for that. The syntax is going to be same like OR. In place of OR, we will be using end keyword. Okay, and here what will we write? Double slash tag name square bracket at the rate attribute one underscore name equals to attribute one value. Then we'll write end and attribute two name, attribute two value. Tag name or star we will mention. Okay, now this type of XPath is generally used when one attribute is not able to find unique XPath, so we have to use more attributes with end keyword to find out the unique XPath of the element. So let's see the example for this. Now example for this is going to be again same. We'll inspect this particular field here. Okay, and here what will we do? We have written here one already on XPath, so we'll write here one and keyword. So we can see when we are mentioning it here and keyword, then we are able to find out the element. But what happened if suppose we will write here A and D, then it is not finding. So we should use our keyword properly. We should use here in small letters, or you say lowercase letters. So we are able to find our XPath using these two attributes: type equals to text and at the rate ID equals to billing underscore first underscore name. And if suppose we will remove input here and write star here, so then also we are able to find out our XPath. Okay, now let's go to relative XPath with contains keyword or method. So now let's see the relative XPath with contains method, and this type of XPath is used to locate the elements where the attribute value changes dynamically, but a part of the attribute value remains same. So let's take an example where we have an input field and the field is username, and the ID of this field is uname underscore 12, and just after some time the value of ID becomes uname underscore 15. Okay, so what is happening? This particular part uname underscore is always same. So in this case, what can we do? We cannot use any of the XPath that we have discussed so far. So we will use a different method, different XPath, and contains method helps us here. Let's see the syntax of a relative XPath with contains method. So double slash tag name square bracket, and then we'll write here contains, then a bracket that comes generally for a method, then at the rate attribute name comma, and then attribute value, and that's it. This is the syntax for contains method. And if suppose we want to remove a tag name, we can put here star here. This is how we can find our particular what to say uh, XPath for an element. Now let's do one thing. Let's write it here, double slash input, and then we'll write here contains, and then we'll write here at the rate, and we'll take value of ID. For this field we'll take value of ID. Okay, ID comma, and then now we will not write here billing underscore first name. Okay, we'll only write first name. Okay, so we'll write here first underscore name. We will not write whole value, we'll only write some part of the value. Control C, and then here control V. Okay, so now the problem here is that it is giving us two locators, two XPath. So this contains method uh, is working here, but it is giving us two locators, two elements it is pointing out. So what happens in this particular case? We have one more method which is going to solve our problem, and that method is starts with method. Okay, so this is also same like contains method, but let's see what it is. So now let's see relative XPath which starts with method, and this type of XPath is used to locate the element where the attribute value changes dynamically, but the starting part of the attribute value remains same. So let's take an example where we have an input field username, and the ID of this field is same uname underscore 12, uname underscore 15, and the value of ID changes but the starting part of it remains always same. Okay, so in this case what can we do? We can use starts with method. It is same like contains method, but we have to see the starting part of it. The syntax is going to be same. In place of contains we are using starts with method. Okay, so let's do one thing. Let's try to write this let's try to write the XPath here. Starts with, and here we'll write here billing underscore, sorry, billing underscore, and we'll not write complete name, we'll only write this one, billing underscore first. And now what is happening? Billing underscore first. So we will write here billing underscore first underscore name n. This is also okay. So the problem here is that it is giving us two elements because of this particular star tag. because star is going to point out all types of elements. Okay, so let's see this one of two. The first element that that it is pointing out is a paragraph p. Okay, and then the second element that it is pointing out is the input. Okay, input field. So we'll do one thing, we'll write here input, and then it is locating only one element. So maybe with contains also same problem would be there. We'll write here contains, and contains is going to, no, it is giving us two name. Yeah, because shipping underscore first name and billing underscore first name. So yeah, this is how we find out our basic XPaths, our basic relative XPaths in Selenium. Okay, this was all about how to find relative XPaths in Selenium. And if suppose you want to see the summary of the session, so the topics that we have covered today are types of basic XPath, syntax of relative XPath, and then XPath with single attribute, XPath with multiple attribute, XPath with or keyword, XPath with end keyword, XPath with contains method, and XPath with starts with method. So that's all we have discussed in today's session, and yeah, thank you very much.